Oh, before I bring Tone on here for the segment, the most fraudulent 10-1 team and the biggest cheerleader for the Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, Tone, the sheriff, mayor, DeShields, joins us now here on the segment.
Yes, sir. Let's sir. Go Birds. You know what I mean? 10-1. You already know how I'm feeling.
You're fraudulent.
I know, right? We're fake as hell. Who would have thought? Yeah, who would have thought? You know, you go 10-1 in back-to-back seasons at this point, right? And you're frauds. Who would have thought Jalen Hurts being in an MVP conversation with her? Who would have thought Jalen Hurts would stage one of the most epic comebacks we've seen in Eagles history? Who would have thought that we would be in contention for the #1 seed? Who would have thought? It's luck, man. It's luck. You know, I can't. It can't be anything else, right? It can't be the hard work. It can't be the diligence. It can't be the resilience. It can't be the swagger or the juice. It can't be the moxie. It can't be the preparation. It's all luck. It can't be the culture. It can't be that the quarterback is playing at a top 5, maybe top 3 level right now. It has to be luck. It has to be Sills. It can't be anything else.
I know. I get it. I can't say anything back to that. I don't think the word if exists in football. I just don't think the word if this happened, if that happened, if that guy catches. I just don't. If you blocked Reddick I don't subscribe to that. I just don't.
Listen, man. Listen, the way I see it, everyone wants to talk about what other people aren't doing instead of talking about what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. Look, I understand, right? When you're at the top of the mountain, you bore people. You know, people have a hard time picking holes in your game.
They hated the Patriots.
Understand it. I understand it. So, Eagles fans, this is the part that we actually have to start embracing, right? You know, we already are comfortable with the hate, but now this is a different kind of hate now. This is a different type of hate. They hate you because they ain't you. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I talk about the Dallas Cowboys all the time. They're a team that so wish that they could move the way we move because they're fighting so many battles. They want to be Hollywood superstars, but they want to hang with the bullies on the block. You can't be a pretty boy and try to hang with the bullies. Are you kidding me? You got to pick a side. You feel what I'm saying? You got to pick a side. You can't come down my block wearing a tuxedo. Man, you better put on your Dickie suit. Stop playing, man. Stop playing.
Yeah. My grandpa wore Dickies every day. He was a hardworking blue-collar dog, man. That's what my granddad wore all the time. Tone, do you agree with me when I say this about Jalen Hurts? He is the biggest. There's no question. I look at him, and I think he's the most underappreciated player and maybe the most underrated player in the NFL.
Yeah, I can't argue with that assessment, you know. And you think about, you know, we talk about it almost every time.
And it's because the media doesn't cover him correctly.
Right. They don't see a player. See, when Jalen Hurts' game, it doesn't necessarily jump off the page, right? Or jump off the screen. You know, he's not fast like a Lamar Jackson. He can't throw a football over the mountains like Josh Allen, right? He doesn't throw the no-look passes like a Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What else? He doesn't have the cool nickname.
He's not flashy.
Like Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the cool nickname and all
Joey
that.
Big.
Stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like they can't put a number on what he is. There's no category for what he is. It's a reason Jalen Hurts considers himself a rare breed. Every post on social media, everything on Twitter, anything you ever see Jalen Hurts post is always #rare breed because there's no one like him. He's a unique specimen. He's a unique animal out there in the wild. And
does that bug you? He dubs himself that like LeBron dubbed himself.
No, it doesn't bother me for the simple fact that, I mean, see,
the chosen one.
Here's the difference. LeBron, like you said, the chosen one. Perfect. I'm glad you said that. LeBron was crowned before he even touched the NBA
That's
floor.
right.
Jalen Hurts, he had to earn every bit of it. You know what I mean? Now I'm sure he was what, a 4-star, 5-star recruit going to Alabama.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, I mean, he's only lost what, 3 or 4 games in his college career, but in college, that's a big deal. So, I mean, sure, he was probably highly touted coming out, going into college, but then he kind of lost that luster a little bit. He lost that spark amongst the people. Then he goes to Oklahoma, regains that, was a Heisman runner-up to Joe Burrow. I mean, you couldn't really deny Joe Burrow's stats that year. You had to give it to him. But he was a runner-up to Joe Burrow for the Heisman. He's a runner-up for the MVP in his second year starting in the NFL. Gets your team to the Super Bowl. People have a hard time understanding how he got there. They could have swore he was riding the coattails of the roster. He proves this year that no, I am the system. I am the roster. Listen, people can say it all they want. I firmly believe if Jalen Hurts is not on this team, if he gets hurt at any point in this season, this team is not 10-1. You can make an argument they're probably what, 7-4, maybe 6-5 at this point in the season. Like, they're probably hanging around Buffalo Bills territory.
3-4 losses.
You know what I mean? So it's just like Jalen Hurts is the real deal. So I've come to understand, and you know, it is what it is. Why people don't really want to give him his flowers. They say he doesn't look like an MVP candidate though. He doesn't look the same as last year. You guys are getting bored, and you're running out and you're running out of ways to disrespect this man. So now you're digging in the bottom of the barrel. But it's okay though. He'll meet you at the Super Bowl in Vegas. That's all it is.
You bring a point up here that I had never thought about until you just said it. It's funny. Who were his receivers at Alabama when he was there at Bama?
Oh, that's a good question.
Who was in the wide receiver room when they lost the national championship game? Did he lose that to Trevor Lawrence? Or did he lose that to Deshaun Watson?
He lost to Deshaun Watson. What year was that?
Against Clemson.
Was that 2018?
Who was in the receiver room that year?
Let me find out.
He lost that national champion. Was Devontae in the room then?
He was there. But
was
I don't know
Calvin
if he was
Ridley there?
I think so. Let me find. I can tell you right now. Give me 1 second.
Waddle there?
So, all right, Jalen Hurts college stats. Let's go to the 20. Okay, so he was at Alabama from 2016 to 2018. He graduated early. He got his bachelor's in 3 years instead of 4.
Was Judy on that
let's
wide
find out
receiver
here.
group?
The 2016 Alabama team. Jalen Hurts was the starter. On that team, he had, give me 1 second. He had Josh Jacobs on that team as well. Calvin Ridley. Who else they had? O.J. Howard. That was in 2016.
Tight end.
Now, the following season, in 2017, Jalen Hurts is still the starter. Tua comes in as a freshman. And
in the title game. So he was the starter all the way up through the SEC championship.
No, that wasn't the year Tua took over, I don't think. I think this is actually the year that Jalen Hurts lost in that national championship
17
game.
then.
They won the Sugar Bowl and they won the no, I think this is the game that Tua came in. Okay, never mind. I'll take that back because they won the national championship against Georgia 26-23. And they beat Clemson in the Sugar Bowl 24-6 in 2017. So but on that team, though, on the 2017 roster, he had Devontae Smith, Joshua Jacobs, Najee Harris, Damian Harris, Henry Ruggs III, Irv Smith Jr., Calvin Ridley. Yeah, those are pretty much the guys.
Was Waddle there?
Waddle wasn't there yet. Wasn't there. He had Jerry Jeudy.
Yep. So he had all pro wide receivers in that room with him.
Yep, Pro Bowlers. Because Calvin Ridley, I believe, was a Pro Bowler before in his career. Devontae Smith. He also had Brian Robinson Jr., the running back for the Commanders, as well. All right, and then the following season in 2018, his last year there, where he really didn't play as much, but he came in sporadically.
Listen to my point here, and here he goes.
I got you.
Do you think that the pro Alabama media shits on Hurts so Nick Saban doesn't look stupid? Just a thought. I've been saying that, Harry.
I never gave that much thought.
But I'm going to show you something here. So he had all that talent in the building, and Nick Saban didn't allow him or coach him to coach through some of the bad things and the bad times, like the 9-8 season. You know, I always thought that he got the best coaching at Alabama. He got the worst coaching at Alabama because Jalen Hurts shows you now he gets the ball to all those players. He deals with all those guys that are on the Eagle team. He's dealing with just as good a talent, if not better talent in Philly as he had in Alabama. Hey, dude, Jalen Hurts didn't get quite the coaching everyone thinks he got at Alabama. Because you know why in college? Those coaches are going to pull your ass out of there when you're not getting the results they need. They don't have to coach you, Tone. There lies the difference in NFL coaching versus college coaching. College coaches are going to be impatient because they can be. They got a 100-man roster.
You can make an argument Hurts had less talent when he went to Oklahoma. Listen to
completely.
This. Listen to this. And he had his best year.
The most talent he's ever had is at Alabama, and the worst coaching he ever got was at Alabama.
Listen to this, man. Oklahoma, he had CeeDee Lamb, who went off, who had that crazy year, but see, he had CeeDee Lamb. He had Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Sermon. He had Charleston Rambo. And then
transferred to Miami.
Right. And then pretty much after that, it just falls off a cliff. I mean, he had Kennedy Brooks, but that was when Kennedy Brooks actually meant something. But yeah, man, he had less talent at Oklahoma and was a Heisman runner-up. So
think about this though. He had less coaching in a place that has less patience. And when he got to Philly, he's proven the narrative that he can win without star players and with all the players around him. Why do I think that's important? Because the narrative has always been Nick Saban did more for the current narrative and the negative narrative on Jalen Hurts than any coach in his entire NFL career.
Don't you think that
what he did to him by not thinking that remember what he said? He had to improve on this. He had to improve on that. Hey, Nick, that's your freaking job.
Don't you think that proves what Tom Brady was talking about?
Yes.
The fact that in college, more so the college side of it, right? He said in college, there aren't too many programs anymore. They're just really, really good teams. They're not developing these young kids. They're not developing these guys. They're not preparing them for the NFL. At the bottom line is when they bring you in, if you can't produce for them right away, they're going to find another kid that can do it. So they're not trying to develop these guys. That's why the guys that are coming in, they're less prepared for the league. And then to take it a step further, these teams now, the CBA permits them to not be able to communicate with these guys in the offseason. So therefore, guys are developing slower, and they're expecting even more out of them. It's insane.
And you're developing slower old linemen too in the process as well.
It takes. Do you think? I'm glad you said that. Do you think it's taken longer to develop O linemen in this era than it has in the past?
Oh,
because I think you're right.
And guys are not playing 4 years, 100-yard touch push drive. Hey, I like it. Oh, absolutely, Tone. There's no question because also the contact in camp. You don't get one-on-one drills like you used to back in the day during 3-a-days. Harder to develop these guys. That's why you're seeing more O-linemen are, once they hit their mid-30s, they're at the peak of their careers. Back in the day, it would be around 27, 26.
But you know what's so sad about it?
You see a guy like Jalen Carter, you're like, shit. You don't see an O-lineman. Shit. You don't. Those guys.
You bring a good point. You know the sad part about it is, by the time they reach their, early in the mid-30s, from a technique skill set perspective, they've reached the pinnacle. But physically, they're done. So it's like, damn. Like for example, a guy like Jason Peters, that's why he's a freak, because from a technique standpoint, he's as good as he's ever going to be.
That's why they beg him at 42 to play.
His body won't hold up. That's the only problem. Because from a technique standpoint, he has all the tricks of the trade, but his body just won't hold up.
Remember what I told you what Howie Long said? Howie Long said to me, he goes, man, I'm a savant in the game now. Too bad my body broke down. I mean, by the time you get all your knowledge, you can't do it anymore, and you can't bend over to tie your sneakers. Okay? It's just how the game works, and it totally is that way. I thought it's interesting. So wait a minute. Jalen had as much talent at that level at Bama that he has now at Philadelphia. What's the difference? It's got to be coaching.
Got to be the coaching. Got to be the coaching. And look, I understand. I understand you call Nick the cheerleader, and it's hilarious. But when it comes to developing Jalen, he has something to do with that.
Well, wait a minute here.
Yeah, something to do with it.
I got to confront you guys something. Because you guys keep saying this. It's Nick's. That ain't Nick Sirianni's culture. Nick landed in that culture, and Nick became part of that culture. That culture was developed under Doug, under Howie, under the owner, and it's been a culture the whole time. And it got sideways under Chip.
Right. I'll push back in this regard.
Parachuted in from Indianapolis and all of a sudden created some culture that was already in the building.
I'll push back in this regard, right? To your point, you're right. The culture was already established because the dog mentality was there before Nick. But I'll push back in this regard. Just as well as a culture can be built, it can be destroyed. And Nick didn't come in trying to overhaul the culture. What he did was he leaned on his veterans and embodied and enforced what was already there and put some more seasoning on it.
And became part of it.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. The dog mentality was there before him. Was there before that whole thing? It was there before him. But he could have came in and tried to overhaul it. But again, that's why Howie Roseman hires the people he hires. Because if you're not on board with what I got going over here, you're not going to get the job. Hence why Josh McDaniel didn't get the job. Remember, they interviewed him too.
I get it.
And Howie wanted to bring him in. Here's the thing that people don't talk about.
A guy like
no, listen. Here's the thing. Howie wanted to bring in Josh McDaniel. Ask McMullen.
Oh, the owner then.
Howie wanted to bring him in. Jeffrey Lurie looked at Howie like this. It'll take a year and a half before you guys hate each other. We're not doing that again. Bring in Nick. Jeffrey Lurie overruled Howie.
That owner doesn't get enough credit for building that team.
Listen, whenever you get McMullen on the show again, ask him who's responsible for Nick being there. Ask him McMullen that when you get a chance, because he'll tell you. McDaniel,
that owner, man, does not get enough credit.
Close. He was this close.
That guy does not get enough credit.
He doesn't because he's not like Jerry. He falls back and he watches his investment do the work.
You see Howie in the locker room after the Bills game. This is my team.
You should have saw him in Kansas City. You should have saw him in Kansas City.
Cheerleaders in that damn office. Hey, this is my team.
You should have saw him in KC, man. But look, like I said, Jeffrey Lurie, he's different from Jerry. Jerry, he wants to be on the back of his stockbrokers. Jeffrey Lurie, he sends you guys the numbers he wants or where he expects, and he falls back. And he sits in his box with his wife and just watches the games. But no, Jerry needs to be involved. Jerry got to get the calculator. He needs the pen and pad. He needs to know what's going on. And I'll take that, baby. I like my owners that know how to relax.
Here's Sirianni waving and screaming at fans. How you like that? I mean,
listen, Sirianni and Howie Roseman, they're the same guy. They're the same guy.
I don't know why I don't like that either. Hey,
yeah. What is it now? Now I'm asking you now.
All people, and he's a paisan. I don't get it.
Yeah. Now I want to put you to the fire. What is it?
Fair enough, man.
What is it about Sirianni? Because in my opinion, he's just like you, brash. You know what I mean? Just jumps out the window. You know what I mean? That paisan
in
swagger.
Your face.
You know what I mean? In your face. He's bold. He talks trash. He's just like you.
Maybe I want to be the only shit talker in the room.
Is it a mirror? Is that what it is? It's the mirror thing. You see yourself a little bit. Is that what it is?
Maybe. It has to be. Because when I saw him screaming at Kansas City fans, and I'm going like, now look at that. And then my wife, swear to you, Tone, my wife goes like this, isn't that you? And I went, don't ever say that in public to anybody. So's our GM and head coach is passionate. I love it.
Listen, man. Like you always say, I'd rather have a guy that I have to pull off the ledge than push to the ledge. And Sirianni's that guy. I'll take it.
Look what Tone's doing, man. He's throwing he's throwing a saddle on me here.
I've been producing your show too long. I know
I'm not going to let you get away with that shit. All right. Sills should be ashamed. I don't like this Italian on Italian. Oh my God!
Oh,
You know
man.
what? Hey, Lori, you're right, man. What the hell's wrong with me? Italian on Italian hate.
Oh, man. Tina brings up
That's
a good
not a
point, though.
good
Listen to
place to
this.
be. I hate that because I'm very, very partial to Italians.
Tina brings up an interesting point. Read this, Sills. Tina brings up a very interesting point.
The one thing on Sirianni, how can a coach teach players to keep emotions in check when he can't? They get that from Jalen. You know what a coach can do? A coach can rev you up at the right time. You know what Jimmy used to do? Coach Johnson would beat our asses up Monday and Tuesday. All of a sudden, Tone, Wednesday would come. Hey, guys, great practice. Thursday would come. Wow, that was really great, Sileo.
Mhm.
Friday, big game coming up. Then he would shut it down and not say anything until we go out and we go play a game. It's your moment. Okay? I'm finished. This is in your hands. Jimmy never gave Rockney speeches. He did it during the week. So when the game came, he'd go like this. You're not going to see me. This is your game. This is your accountability.
Mm-hmm.
This is your hard work. And I think that's how Nick does this.
It's so funny you say that. They asked Devontae, like, what is it about you guys that you just flip that switch in the second half? Like how do you guys stay so calm? And it's funny enough. I mean, he said, honestly, Nick does a great job at just, letting us know what he expects. And, we go out there and we do our best to execute the game plan. You know what I mean? Like, Nick, he's a passionate dude on the sideline. Of course, we all see that. He's even passionate in practices. It's so funny. Before the season started, he was getting on those guys early on the first day.
How are you giving him credit for him listening to Howie? So you're giving him credit for being a mouthpiece.
What do you mean by that?
You're giving him credit for being a mouthpiece.
Nah. Because Howie can't motivate nobody like that. Nah.
Oh, that's why Nick's the mouthpiece. He hires mouthpieces.
Doesn't Jerry do the same thing?
Jerry don't have the success though that you guys have.
But no, listen, I think Nick is more than just a mouthpiece, man. I mean, he's not just a puppet. I'm telling you.
What does he do? What exactly is his the great 10-play scripted first half offensive discombobulation?
Hey, listen, you tell me all the time.
Or those weirdo press conferences of him, or those screaming matches on. Tell me what he does that you think that is important to the team that's not being a mouthpiece.
You tell me this all the time. When Jimmy was on us, Jimmy didn't call a single play. You told me that.
Never.
You told me that. He was more so the delegator. He put guys in position. You know what I mean? He trusted
did all
guys
the hires,
a lot.
though.
You know what I mean? That's a different era, though. A different era. And back then, coaches had a way more control over GMs back then. But now, look, man, I give Nick credit for being able to steer a ship that's already been built. The ship has been built. The standard has been set. Like I said, a captain can come. Listen, he can come in. Nah, see, it's the way you frame it. I don't like that. I don't like the way you frame it. I don't like the way you frame it. He's more than a mouthpiece.
Nice Alexander.
He's more than a mouthpiece, man. He's more than a mouthpiece. He's more than that.
No, I don't like the phrasing to that. No, I don't like the freaking phrasing to that. Let me say this to you. You agree none of those hires in that building are his.
I'll put it to you this way.
You can't.
No, listen. I'll put it to you this way. I'm gonna answer your question. What happens is Howie gives him a pool of guys. Hey, listen, these are the guys we're thinking about.
So it's a loaded deck of cards.
He gives him a loaded deck of cards. And Nick goes in and says, I don't know about that guy.
Does Nick know it's a loaded deck of cards? Maybe that's what makes him smart.
No, listen, this is what he does. Howie gives him a pool of guys that are potentially available that may fit what they're trying to do. Nick interviews the guys. Nick then goes back to Howie and say, this is how I feel about this guy. This is how I feel about that guy. This is how I feel about this guy. Howie then makes the hire and says, hey, Nick, we're thinking about bringing this guy in. You interviewed him. You good with that? Yeah, I'm good with that. There we go. It's a relationship. No good relationship can have decisions being made without both parties being involved.
But those coaches are all predetermined.
Predetermined in what way?
That, hey, Jeffrey, are you okay with these 10 guys if one of these guys gets the job and they fit into the culture here?
Okay.
Um,
Then yeah.
yeah.
Then, yeah, I'll roll with that. Yeah. I'll roll with that because
that's a really good way of being able to answer a question that I hired the guys when you really didn't.
That first year, he definitely didn't hire all those guys. Because remember what he said? He said,
so you think he hired Sean Desai?
I think Howie gave him a list of guys. Nick interviewed them all, and Nick said, "This is the guy I like," and Howie made the ultimate decision.
Who do you think brought Julio Jones in? You think Nick went to Howie and went, "I need Julio"?
Oh man, no, because Nick doesn't have control over the roster. So,
so he doesn't have control over the game day roster.
No, you see what you did there? You see what you did there?
Well, wait, Doug didn't.
No one. I mean, most coaches don't though. Most coaches in this league don't though. All the GMs control the roster.
In today's NFL, you're right.
Yeah. So I can't get mad at Nick for something that's just the standard, right?
Nick reminds me of the guy that's at that Vikings game that blows that horn.
Nah, man. Yeah, I like Nick, man. I like Nick. You know, like, do I wish he sometimes dials it back in the press conferences? Sure, but I like Nick overall.
They've gotten better, though.
I like him.
They've gotten better. They have.
I like Nick, man.
So you like him because he represents Philly and he looks like Philly.
Yeah, I feel him. I like him. I dig him. I like him. You know, I didn't like the fact that people jumped out the window on him on day one. I was like, come on, he just got here. Relax. Like,
wait a minute. You weren't giving people shit either at 2-5 when that thing was a train wreck?
No, not that. I'm talking about the press conference.
Oh, the press conference.
Yeah, the press conference. I was like, come on, really?
Did you ever see Belichick's first press conference? You could have taken a no-dose.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what Art Modell told Bob Kraft? If you hire this guy, it will be the worst hire in the history of your franchise.
But to your point, though, about 2-5, when they were 2-5, I was looking around like, yo, I don't know if this is the guy, man. I don't know. But then all of a sudden, things started to flip. And I was like, okay, all right. You know, so look, man, Nick is the type of guy, so far, he's proven to me that his ego is not going to be the reason they lose. So I can roll with that.
Did coaching cost the Super Bowl? Look at him. He will. He don't want to.
Yeah, it did.
Do you think he's learned from that?
I do.
Okay.
Now he has to prove that though. But I think he has learned because, listen to this, right?
Okay. I'm with you.
How often do teams show up the way they have this year coming off a Super Bowl?
Nothing.
It's not common. So I have to give him credit for being able to keep this team not only together, but still focused. Now, obviously, that's partially the
momentum. They kept the momentum going from a year ago.
That's not easy to do. Like, I mean, like a guy that's just waving pom-poms can't do that.
No, agreed.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's all fun, obviously, making fun of Sirianni. It's fun. But, overall, when you really think about it, what he's doing this year with this team is not easy. It's not easy to do when you came so close and people are expecting you to kind of fall off the cliff and people already don't take what you guys are doing. People don't take Nick Sirianni seriously and they don't take Jalen Hurts seriously, but they will. Watch.
Okay, that leads me to this. You think Sirianni's over or underachieved so far in Philly?
I'm glad you asked that question because overachieving and underachieving is based off of the standard people have set for you. It's based off the precedent. When he got here, that press conference.
Isn't it time related too?
It's time related as well. So when he got here, people thought, what about Nick Sirianni? Oh, this guy is going to be a flop. He can't even do a press conference. They've set the precedent.
Same as Dan Campbell.
Exactly. They set the precedent. So all those people who were down on Nick Sirianni from that point forward, anything that he does beyond that, he's overachieved because they felt like he was going to be a flop because he couldn't do a press conference, the 2-5 start, all that kind of stuff. You dig what I'm saying? So
they got off to a bumpy rocky road.
So based off of the precedent that people have set on him in his young career, he's overachieved. Now, after this season, because he's shown he can get to the playoffs, that was year one. He can coach you to the playoffs. That was year one. Year two, he can coach you to the Super Bowl. Okay. Now, year three, you got to win it. And if you don't win it, now from this point forward, if God forbid, if they don't win it, anything after that, Super Bowl or bust. He would be considered an underachiever to make it to back-to-back Super Bowls and not win one of them, because he's going to be entering Andy Reid territory in terms of.
Is he 2-2 right now in the playoffs?
He's 2-2 in the playoffs. Correct. Yes, he's 2-2 in the playoffs. So
As
he
is
would
Jalen.
Yeah, as is Jalen. Yep, their careers are literally tied to the hip. So if he loses back-to-back Super Bowls, he's going to be entering Andy Reid territory. You get there, but you can't get it done. Now, I'm not talking about their football acumen. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about the result. So if he doesn't get it done this year, now he's entering underachieving category or territory. I said the same thing about Jalen. If Jalen gets there and doesn't win it, which I think he will, but if he gets there and doesn't win it, he's entering underachieving territory now, because now we don't care about college. We don't care about what people said about you. You made it to 2 Super Bowls back to back. You're solidified in that regard. You got to win it now. We're not worrying about regular season with you anymore. You got to win it. That's the big thing. Like you said with Mahomes.
Don't you agree, if this team doesn't come through, this will be the most disappointing team in Eagle history?
Yes. Because of the expectation. Because
right. If you notice, I didn't say the worst talented.
Right.
I said
most disappointing. Most disappointing. No, you're right. You're right. Because
how disappointing was the Andy Reid era?
Oh.
Because that era right now, in my opinion, is the most disappointing era in Eagle history. Not Gang Green, not the Vermeil, but Andy Reid. That was the most disappointing era. And get this, he's still considered by many and some the best coach in Eagle history, but that is the most disappointing era in Eagle history. And you grew up with that era, am I correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I was born in '94, so I grew up with the McNabb era is when I was able to start following football, intentionally. And what's so funny, they consider him the greatest coach in Eagles history, but he's given us the biggest letdowns in Eagles history. And I have a hard time saying both of those things in the same sentence. To me, I understand Andy Reid provided a blueprint for the Philadelphia Eagles, how to build a team, built from the inside out, not from the outside in. He established something here that still holds true. I will never take that away from him. But there comes a point in time where we have to start going beyond that. We can't keep giving guys credit for something like that if there's nothing at the end of the yellow brick road. So what I'm saying is, as great as Andy Reid was, his time in Philadelphia was a grave disappointment. It was grave.
Totally.
Now, I'll say this too about Nick.
The loss to the Bucs, final game at the Vet, could have been the topper.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further with Nick, right? If Nick and Jalen stay together, right, for however long they stay, and they can't get over the hump, this era is going to trump the Andy Reid era in terms of most disappointing. It's going to trump it because the teams are more talented. The GM was significantly better than before. You can make an argument the quarterback is better. You can make an argument. It's just going to be a grave disappointment. So for me, as long as Jalen Hurts is in the building, it's Super Bowl or bust. That's where I'm at.
Okay, well, let me ask you something then that we're trending there, because the way Eagle fans and the way the Eagle media and the way some of the national media is looking, it totally is becoming Super Bowl or bust here. Correct? Am I right when I say that?
Absolutely.
When does it get to a point, hypothetically, and this is for conversation.
Right.
So go with me here. Eagles get bounced in the playoffs, or they get beat in the NFC title game, or they lose the Super Bowl. When does it get to a point where the organization, because they've moved off of coaches before, even with a great record, that they say, is he the right coach for Jalen?
I'm glad you asked that. What Andy Reid accomplished in Philadelphia, you'll never see that again in terms of the length of his career. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie learned you got about 5 years to produce something. And if you're not producing something, or we're not seeing the constant progression, then you're not going to be here. See, here's the thing. The Eagles, well, Nick Sirianni, let's focus on Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni, well, because Jalen's going to be here regardless. Nick Sirianni is a victim of his early success.
And they've changed coaches out that have had winning records here before.
And Super Bowls. And a Super Bowl. So here's the thing, right? Knowing that you fired a Super Bowl winning head coach tells me nothing Nick Sirianni does can make him safe.
And a future Hall of Fame coach in Reed.
Exactly. The fact that you fired Andy Reid, you fired Doug Peterson, who won you the Super Bowl, nothing Nick Sirianni does will make him safe. He would have to win 2 Super Bowls for him to be safe here. 2. And he would have to still, mind himself around Howie Roseman.
See, here's the difference between Doug and Nick. They developed the number 2 selection overall into being an MVP candidate. Then they took a backup to win the thing.
Mm-hmm.
They won multiple division titles and an NFC title. And Doug, in my opinion, is now proving the point going somewhere else that he's now turned Lawrence around and he's turned the Jags around. Okay, so you're looking at a coach there that is exactly what the Eagles thought. However, they may have thought that Doug wasn't the right fit for Jalen Hurts in the end. Tone, that was a really weird firing. We all say that. There wasn't really any. What were the vague lines? It was time or whatever. Both guys, they parted mutual agreement. Something crazy. Wasn't it like it was really vague?
Yeah, because what happened was,
it wasn't you're fired. It was the parting of mutual ways or some shit like that.
Doug Peterson and Carson got shipped out of here the same year within about a week or 2 of each other.
That's correct.
It happened very fast.
Because they were dealing with Indianapolis, and that's how Sirianni landed in Philly. That whole thing was all around Philly and Indy.
Yeah. I think Doug got fired first. And then because originally everyone thought, oh, you brought Nick in for Carson because of the Frank Reich connection. But then they actually traded Carson. So then at that point, it's like, okay, where are we going now? So again, Nick Sirianni, he's going to be a victim of his early success. Like I said, you proved you can get to the playoffs. All right. You got to the Super Bowl your second season. Okay. Your third season, you got to win it now. You have to win it to validate what's been going on here, because if you get the back-to-back Super Bowls and you lose, now Howie's going to start looking at you as the weakest link. Because
as he did Doug.
The difference is Doug won it.
I got it. I want to show you something here. George Seifert coaching statistics. I want to show you something. I want to show you something here on how great coaches get fired when organizations see you're not developing. George Seifert in San Francisco had a 98-30 record. And every year he was in San Francisco, he went 14-2, 14-2, 10-6, 14-2, 10-6, 13-3, 11-5, 12-4 before he got to Carolina. Wouldn't you consider those years, plus the Super Bowl championship, you would consider that coach to be on his way to being a Hall of Fame coach? Multiple 10-win seasons, numerous NFC championship games. 49ers fired his ass with a 12-4 record for Mariucci. Wow. He goes to Carolina, 8 wins, 7 wins, 1 win, and never considered ever again for the Hall of Fame.
Do you think the Carolina years
he's got 114 wins and 62 losses. One of the great win percentages in San Francisco, he had a 766 win percentage. What's your boys' win percentage?
Nick's is in the range, I think 700 range, something like that. I believe
he's 766 and they fired him.
Right. So that proves records don't make you safe. Listen, you know what makes you safe? Playing ball. It don't matter how many Super Bowls you win. If you ain't playing ball.
What else, Tone?
Money. Playing ball.
You ain't moving off of Hurts with $50 million.
Exactly. Listen, like you think Andy Reid was around here just because? Listen, Andy Reid was here for as long as he was because he built up so much equity with the owner. He gave them something that they've been searching for forever, and that was stability. And they couldn't afford to fire him. Think about too. Yeah, no, that's true. But hear me out on this, right? Really think about the the era of the Philadelphia Eagles. Who owned the Eagles before Jeffrey
Norman
Lurie?
Brayman.
Norman Brayman. Those years were what? Awful. Awful.
He was in France, and Buddy used to go like this. You had a guy in France.
So I say that to say, Jeffrey Lurie, when he inherited the team, he was trying to recalibrate that organization, and he was trying to establish a level of stability and respectability. You think Jeffrey Lurie would have been perfect example? What's the guy in Carolina? David Tepper, right? He's the new owner. How many coaches has he been through since he's been there in 2018?
Four, three.
Let's just say 3 or 4, right? Can you imagine if Jeffrey Lurie in those first couple years, a few years, he had Andy Reid, he fired him, and then he brings another head coach and he fired. Like you have to nurture your coach, and you have to establish some form of stability, regardless of their winning and losing, because stability breeds respect.
Since 2000, you haven't had a coach with a losing record. It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Stability breeds respect. If you're a new owner, Jeffrey Lurie had to be taken seriously as an owner because he took the investment seriously.
But Tone, the success of the Eagles makes it easy to move off of Sirianni, whether he's got a 630 or 700 win percentage or not, because at the end of the day, it's about the structure inside the system. They're comfortable, and he's comfortable.
That's the key word you mentioned.
As the next guy. And it's got to get to a point where you can have all these great regular season wins, Tone. But if you don't get that thing across the finish line, I mean, you think they're just going to go through the charade of being 12-4 like the Cowboys every year?
That's the key word you mentioned, comfortable, right? The Philadelphia Eagles have positioned themselves in 2023. They're so confident in their formula. That's the difference. At that time with Andy Reid, they had no formula. Andy Reid was the formula. He provided Jeffrey with the formula. But now they're so far past that now. The formula has become so intertwined in the organization of what they do. Now they're so confident in it. They're so confident in their process. They look at any coach as expendable because they know their process works. And you know what proved their process worked? When they brought in Chip, he had 10-win seasons. And then you take it a step further, you bring in Doug. He has a double-digit win season, makes it to a Super Bowl under your formula. You bring in Nick Sirianni. He makes it to a Super Bowl under your formula. They've been validated. Their formula has been validated. So therefore, they see themselves as, hold on, wait. We're going to be a winning culture, a winning team regardless, because we believe in. That's why they take their culture and their personnel so seriously. They don't just draft random guys. They draft guys that can continue to reaffirm and push their culture.
I'm going to make a point to you that I think even Alex Halby is the third most important person in that building than Howie, than the owner, because he's the number 2 man to Howie Roseman. And that's the guy who's going to be the next general manager of a football team. He's had a strategy. He's had a player development. He's had a player evaluation. That's the guy who's the analytics guy inside your building. He is the guy. That's Howie's right-hand man. That man is responsible for a lot of the things and the intel that Howie gets. Howie trusts that guy. If I'm a general manager or if I'm an owner, that dude right there has to be the most coveted guy in that organization. Look at his job title. Read it for everyone, Tone.
Alec Halby, who enters his 16th year with the Philadelphia Eagles, was named assistant general manager in 2022 after spending 6 seasons from 2016 to 2021 as the team's vice president of football operations and strategy. During his tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles, Halby focused on player evaluation, roster management, and resource allocation with a particular emphasis on integrating traditional and analytical methods in decision-making. Halby previously served as a special assistant to the general manager in 2012 to 2015 and player personnel analyst in 2010 and 2011. He began his career as an intern with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2007 and 2009, and he's a Harvard graduate in 2009. Howie Roseman groomed this young man.
Yeah, he's Howie too.
He trusts him with
That's the guy. That's his go-to guy. He don't go to Nick. He goes to that guy. That guy is part of the process that has built the Philadelphia Eagles infrastructure.
And where did
You
Brett Veach
see
come
that?
from? And Brett Veach is a Howie guy. You know what I'm saying? So their formula is tried and true across the NFL landscape. People are going to Howie Roseman's talent pool from a front office perspective and picking them off.
How old is he?
Who? Alec Halby?
Yeah. There we go, Tone.
Oh, technical difficulty, you guys. Don't worry about that.
It's
anyway,
all good, man.
Alec Halby. All right. He graduated from Harvard in 2009. Let me see if I can find out that age for you. So Alec Halby.
Got to be 50-something.
Got to be in his 50s.
Dude, that guy does not get enough love for his importance in that organization. Do you understand that he helps pick the coaches?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I'm going to find that age for you.
Dude, Yale says he's 35.
Get the hell out of here. He's 35?
Can't be.
Get the hell out of here. I got to find it.
Dude, that guy, I've been looking up his resume and asking people around. Do you know what Andrew Berry says about him? Andrew Berry says that guy's in front of a computer his entire day doing analytical work for the team and what the strategy is for game planning. Do you understand? He puts some of the game planning to work and gives the intel to Nick for the game plans and how to beat San Francisco on Sunday. Then he puts the right players in the position for the active roster on Sunday. That's the problem Doug had with it, was that he had too many of Howie's guys directing the game plan. I was told this.
He's 35.
That's insane.
Listen to this.
That's
Andrew Berry, 35. That's
insane.
Isn't that a Howie guy, Andrew Berry?
Yes.
Andrew Berry, 35.
What's Joe Douglas?
Alec Halby, 35. That's insane.
The only reason he's not a GM is because he's 35.
He's going to be a GM somewhere in the next few years. I believe that.
Few years? If I'm the Giants, I hire him now.
They just hired Joe Shane. I don't think they'll make the move yet.
How's that working?
No, I'm with you. But I think that last year was his first year, right? If I'm not mistaken. So I think that they're going to ride it out with him for like another couple years.
The Myers will do that.
That's just who they are.
They're not. That's correct. They're not going to.
But again, to the original conversation, the Eagles have established a formula that goes beyond just a head coach. They will never allow themselves to be beholden to a head coach again. Whereas there are a lot of organizations who don't have coaches, don't have formulas, and they expect a head coach to come in and just provide something. Hence why certain organizations' head coaches have more power than the GMs. A la Tennessee. Mike Vrabel, he survived 2 GMs. Why? Because he brought that culture. He established that. You feel what I'm saying? So again, Houston Texans
staff is not as important as Howie Roseman and Alec Halby.
And it never will be.
It never will be. You see it right now, Tone, why the organization is some people who come into it, they look at it and they go, if you don't know the structure of the Eagles, you can't succeed there. Doug didn't like the fact that there was too many people involved in his game day preparation. And Alec Halby put the roster together. Mm-hmm. Alec Halby had input in the strategy of the game and how you attack analytically, say the Giants or the Cowboys. And Doug wanted to just go off of guts and heart. Dude, I'll tell you what, if those guys were to me, this is a lot like Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. You know the troubling thing is, Tone, is that those guys couldn't get over their own egos. And to me, when you do the homework on this, Howie and Doug are Jerry and Jimmy. They couldn't get over their egos. Both of the men, okay, could not get over their egos, and it could cost them numerous Super Bowls down the line. Remember, I said that to you.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Lord knows what would happen if Doug and Howie were stuck together. The thing is, though, I think this played into it as well.
Doug Peterson wins that Super Bowl 9 months ago.
How old is Doug?
He's got to be my age, 60.
Okay, Howie is definitely younger than him. So I think that has something to do with it too. I think the age difference. You got a guy in Alec Halby who's 35, 30. Well, at the time maybe he was 33. Who knows? But you got these young guys in here trying to tell you what's what.
I agreed.
I think that mattered too.
That's why you're seeing a whole landscape of young coaches in the NFL, and all the old dogs are being kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see retread old coaches. You see the new guys who work with the analytic guys and the front office guys.
How old is Stefanski in Cleveland?
Oh, he's got to be Nick's age.
Maybe in his 40s, right?
Something like that. Got to be.
Andrew Barry.
Sean McVay's 37.
Exactly. Andrew Barry is 35, 36 right now. So
what do you think?
They're hiring guys.
Kyle Shanahan's 40, maybe.
Right. They're hiring guys that can they're hiring guys so age won't be a factor anymore. You know what I mean?
Or they're in the same X generation shit.
Exactly.
They understand analytics more. Dude, a coach like John Gruden's never going to understand analytics. I mean, Doug Peterson's barely going to understand. Philly's not analytics.
No, that's all guts and glory. That's all instinct. That's all instinct.
That's what you needed, though, in Arizona.
Yeah, we needed instinct, and that's why Andy is one of the best, because he came as great as as smart as he is in the game. He doesn't allow analytics to fully control him. He's been a part of both worlds. And I
think Mahomes has brought him into that, though.
I think Mahomes
the biggest influence in his entire coaching career, not only just as an athletic, gifted, generational talent, but also as a man and as a kid. You know, remember something about Mahomes. His pop was on that 86 Mets World Series team. He was raised in a sports environment. You know, he's got a big mouth brother. He's got a glory hound wife who wants to be in the front and center, all that. And he manages all that. Shit, he's the quietest guy in his family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he's the most successful and the most famous in his family.
You know,
and he handles it like Hurts does.
It's so funny you say that. Jalen Hurts' family, you don't hear a peep out of them. They play the background so well. His dad, laid back, barely talks. You know what I mean? It's just
but I'm okay with guys like LeVar Ball too.
Yeah, I don't care what no one says. I like LeVar Ball. I mean, this is a whole nother conversation.
All my kids live in mansions. They all have like millions of dollars in the bank, and they have shoe deals, and they all have sponsor deals, and they're all millionaires. And I did that because of my fat mouth. I'll live with that.
Listen, I like LeVar Ball, man. I don't care what no one says.
Hey, wait, Tone. Okay, so you're gonna shit on a guy for making all his kids millionaires and living in mansions?
Hey, man, to each his own. To each his own.
I don't. Well, look what he did. He ruined his career. He's worth $10 million.
Listen, my dad is my biggest fan. I'll tell you that. And I feel like anybody would see. The thing is, the LeVar Ball is nothing new. Listen, in the black community, LeVar Ball, that kind of guy, dime a dozen. The problem was, I don't think mass media or mainstream media knew how to take him.
No, you're say it, Tone.
It's nothing new.
No, say it right.
All right, I'll put it to you like this, man.
Tone?
There's a narrative around black fathers. There's a narrative. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think mass media was comfortable with that black father promoting his kids like that.
Say it, Tone.
Mainstream media. We know.
White media.
Okay. White media. You said it, not me. White media. You said it, not me.
Am I wrong?
You see it.
Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong at all. You see a black father. Now, look, some people don't agree with everything he says, okay, but you see a black father that's trying to encourage his sons to be self-made, not depend on these organizations and these corporations, right? Remember Big Baller Brand, all that kind of stuff. He was trying to leave his kids something.
I got one. It fell apart. It wasn't the point, though.
but it's the point, though. I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth. The fact of the matter is, he made white people uncomfortable. He did. You know what I mean? You see this loud black father. It's nothing. I'm telling you. And what LeVar Ball is nothing new under the sun amongst black people. Everything, the way he talked, man.
I like brother right here. Hey, you think Richard Williams is a bad dad?
Richard Williams. Wait, is that
Serena and
King Richard? Is that King Richard? No, hell no.
They're worth both $100 million.
Hell no. He was tough on his girls, and he didn't allow anybody to cheat his girls.
I love Richard Williams.
I loved it,
dude.
I loved it.
Serena Williams, in my opinion, is the greatest tennis player in American history.
She's one of the greatest athletes.
About chicks even.
One of the greatest athletes. One of the most decorated athletes in history.
I'm a huge Serena Williams fan.
Yeah.
She's the most. You know what? If you want to say Tiger Woods, the most dominant guy, I think Serena's more dominant than he was.
You can make an argument she is.
Tone, I got to roll.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. We got Mark Frazetta
Awesome
coming up next.
man. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much. Don't forget, my friends, our good friends at Hooters here. Happy Wings Giving. NortheastHooters.com. We love the fact that you guys are now part of our great program that we have. All you have to do is email us your name and address and all the information to get a shot at winning yourself some gift certificates. Dan Sileo Show at Gmail. Military Mondays, 20% off. Wing Wednesdays, 1983. Go to NortheastHooters.com. That's NortheastHooters.com. Mark Farzetta is going to join us in a couple minutes here. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.